Hey, welcome to my channel, the Rustic South. Hey guys, we're going to be making today a grungy box. The little round one you see in the picture is what we're going to be making. It's got a few elements. So here's the container that I got at Christmas time at the Dollar Tree. But you can use any box, any container that you want to use that you have that may be square or round, short, tall, whatever. They all will work. You can do this on any container. So what I do with a container first, of course, is paint the container to cover up the design that's on it, unless you have a design on it that you already like. So I'm painting mine white with chalk paint to cover up the Christmas theme underneath it. Now, depending on what kind of fabric you're going to put on it, you could paint this black or brown, any color, right? And then you have to go and figure out what kind of fabrics you're going to put on it. Now, I used 3 different fabrics and 1 lace. I used a homespun, a red checked homespun for the lid. And then for the trim around the lid, I used a, but you really can't even see the print on it because of the way I grunged it up. It was a light green with like a light creamy floral print that was very light. I got it at Joann's just last week, and they're I think they're called fat squares. I think that's what they're called. You won't be able to see the print on it, I don't believe, at all, because I grunged it up pretty good. So, and then around the container that I'm painting now, I used a piece of coffee stained tea towel. Excuse me. Coffee stained tea towel that I had coffee stained some time ago. And so what I did was I measured the circumference with the fabric around the container, so I knew what size to cut of the fabric. And then I cut it just barely so it would overlap itself, just barely, or maybe not even overlap at all. It depends what you think looks best, right? And then I had an old piece of lace that I had from, I don't even know where it's from, but I took it and cut it a little shorter than the tea towel, because I still wanted to see the tea towel over the top of the lace. The lace is the last piece I put on, and it goes around the outside of the container as well. So once you paint your container, whatever color you're going to paint it, if it needs painting, we're going to glue the fabric, the tea towel, or whatever you're going to put around the container, to the container, and pick a spot where you want the seam, of course, in the back. So if there's a spot on your container where you think the seam should go, put it there. And then you're going to take Mod Podge, and you're going to paint it on the fabric and on the container. You're going to use Mod Podge to adhere it to the container, either at first or after you glue the tea towel on. So I glued the tea towel on with just a little bit of hot glue at the seam. Then I took Mod Podge and covered the fabric with Mod Podge. So here's the fabric I put on the outside of it. I left the frayed part at the top. I left a little bit at the top because so I could make sure the lid would fit on. And here you see me going around, just making a pattern, if you will, for the lid. This is the homespun that's going to go on the lid. And what I would advise, what I did was I cut the fabric bigger than the lid, because I want it to go down the sides of the lid just a little bit, so that when you cover it with the rim, see that fabric I have in my hand now, that green is what I'm using for the piece that's going to go around the rim of the lid. So you want the fabric on the top to be bigger, so it goes over the edge, and then when you put the trim piece on for the lid, it will cover the fabric that has come over the sides. I'll show you here shortly, I believe. So I'm putting Mod Podge on the lid now. You don't need to paint the lid, or I didn't have to because mine was not painted anyway. So I put Mod Podge down. I place my lid on the circle that I drew. Again, you want it to go over the edge, about halfway. So I put a little Mod Podge around the edge under certain areas, because it will be bulky because of it being a circumference, right? So it will and can be bulky in spots. So that's why I felt the need to not leave all of the extra on there, but a little over the edge, so that it has a seamless look to it when it's done. So yeah, so I cut it in spots so that if it has to overlap a little bit, then it can without being bulky, right? Here's that trim I'm going to put on there shortly. Now, see, you can see it's light green here with a real light florally print. It's really cute. But in the end, see, I grunged it up here with my stamps, my distressed oxide stamps, the top and the trim piece. But once I get Mod Podge on it, I end up putting cinnamon on it to make it, more grungy. You can't even see the print barely. So, take that into consideration when you're putting something together. Depending on how much you're going to grunge it, you may not even be able to see the print. I hope you all are feeling well, because there is so much ick going around. I feel like I'm getting something again. It's unbelievable. With kids in school, it just comes and goes. Look at the difference in the fabric, the top and the sides. You can see that that wax is amazing if you're wanting to grunge something. Now I got inspiration for this piece. I found, or I saw, I think it was on Etsy, on there some containers that they were selling. So there's the lid with the top on it, and now I'm going to go outside and spray this adhesive spray around the edge. Of course, I spray way too much of it on there, but anyway, whatever. But I saw a container on Etsy that was really cute. So yeah, so my trim piece is just barely longer than my lid, because I want it to come again over the edge, the end of the lid, if you will, the end, meaning the bottom of the lid, I guess. I want it to hang down just barely, right? If you can see, the frayed part of that fabric that I'm doing now is just barely hanging down over the edge. So that was my thinking when I cut this fabric. Again, I want it just barely longer than the height of the lid. Anyway, I found these on sale. somewhere, not sale, but somebody was making them and selling them, and they were so cute. So I came up with, knew I had this container, so I was like, let's do this. Let me see if I can make something. So, okay, so here's why I'm taking the Mod Podge, and I'm going to paint the outside of the entire container where you put the tea towel. You're going to paint the entire container with Mod Podge. You're going to paint the fabric, not paint, you're going to glue the fabric with your paintbrush and the Mod Podge to the container. This is important. Well, I don't know about important, but it's the way hers looked, and I found it important to do it because that was the way I wanted it to look, was like the one I saw. So I paint it entirely from top to bottom, that fabric to the container, okay? So here's the lace I cut, and now I'm going to, because it was like a cream color, so now I want to color it because I want it to be something other than a brown, right? Because I have that tea towel on there. So I'm going to use this paint that I believe I showed you before, I got from Dollar Tree now, I believe a couple of years ago. It's kind of like a burnt red. It's not a true red. It's a burnt red. So I decide to take it and rub it all over this fabric. And what you should do actually is just squirt the paint into a cup or on your work surface and paint it on. It uses less paint. Right now I'm just kind of wasting it. But so take from my take my advice, and what I learned is to not just squirt it on there. Put it down, squirt it onto a surface, and then here we go. And then paint it on. It goes on much faster, more even, much better. So I took that and I did that so to make the fabric the color that I wanted. It matches more of the color in the homespun, like a rusty red. And then I also added some black in this, some apple barrel black. I think I added to this to make it a little bit darker in spots. I didn't do the whole thing, I don't think. That's the apple barrel black. That color is oxide, but I haven't seen it there. I was at Dollar Tree today and they had some other color in this same brand, but it was not the oxide. It looked more of an orange. So I paint this on only on the one side that I'm going to have facing out, right? It is going to go through it anyway, but then you need to, of course, hang it so that it can dry, because you certainly can't put that in your dryer. So I'm going to hang it and let it dry for, I think it took about, an hour. I mean, I hung it and forgot about it for a while. But the color comes out amazing. I love it. I've never really painted fabric. I mean, we've stained fabric, but I've never painted fabric. It was great to get the color. See the color on the screen of that lace? So this heart here I have in my hand, my husband made that for me. He has a 3D printing machine. He made that for me because I wanted to put it on the container. And if anybody has any interest in one of those, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to have him make some and we could sell them. So let me know if that's something that interests you at all. So anyway, so I took some jute. I drilled holes in the side of it so that I could hang it, because that was my intention when I had him make it. So I'm sticking jute through there, tape on the end to help me get it through there. so we can hang it from the front of this container. And what I also did was on the top there, if you see off to the right, I made a little patch, if you will, out of the same fabric that's around the edge of the lid. I made a patch to go on the lid. This did take a little finagling to get it through there, but it only took me less than a minute, I think. That was because I drilled the holes not exactly straight across. That was, see, I got it through there, but I did it off camera because I was like, how long is this going to take? So see, that's what I want to do, is I want to hang it from the front of it. Also, I did grunge up the lid with some cinnamon. When I painted Mod Podge on the top, I did throw a little cinnamon on the top. So now there's a side view of it without the lace. You could leave the lace off and just leave it the way it is. I also put cinnamon on the bottom part. You can see where the brown is on the top part of the fabric there. I did leave, put some cinnamon on there. You could always do that. Here I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get it to stay on the container. So, I mean, this was kind of a cute concept, but I felt like the bow with the heart was a little too much together. So maybe, you know, I think I tried to offset them. That was kind of cute, but then in the end I just decided to tie a knot in the back and not have anything additional in the front. Also, too, I do take that heart prior to putting it on the container, and I do show it in the video here shortly, that I put glue around the edge of it, on the outside edge and on the top edge, and put cinnamon on it, and let that dry, because it was a little too perfect. It needed to be grunged. So I did do that eventually. You'll see that shortly. There's a lot of thinking going on here. One thing I felt was maybe a little important to do would be to take this, either the wax, the min wax that I used on it earlier, or these stamps, and kind of put some ink around the top to make it, if you're actually going to use this container, I mean, because there's no paint on the inside, I wouldn't use it for food, of course, but if you're going to use it to, you know, just put things in, I don't know, jewelry or makeup, or I'm not really sure what, but to make the lid easier to come on and off is to put a little bit of wax around the top of the container. And I also did put a little wax on the inside lid so that it would slip on and off easier. So there's the lace that we had painted earlier. Find your seams. I'm gonna, you want to line up the seams with the lace and the back of the container. So I do hot glue that on. I do not put Mod Podge over the lace. We are done with the Mod Podge. So I only used my hot glue gun to adhere the lace to the container. Now, if you don't have lace and you don't want to use lace, you could certainly use any other fabric. And the fabrics, if you're going to grunge them up, they do not have to coordinate that closely together, because when you grunge up stuff, you can barely tell, depending on how much you do, you can barely tell what color it is, right? In some instances. So, maybe look through your fabrics. Next time you go to the store, check out the fabrics. Now, the fabric I did put around the trim of the lid is not homespun. So when I cut it and I ripped it, the edges of it rolled pretty significantly. So, if you can find homespun to use, maybe go with the homespun. It does not have a tendency to do that. It was a little bit annoying. I had to spray it with water and then dry it because it would not lay flat. So here I'm just grunging up that little patch I put on the top. See, I turned off that LED overlight light that I have that's overhead. It's so bright. I mean, it's great for seeing when you're crafting, but it doesn't bring out the true colors of the, see how much brighter? It doesn't really show off the true colors of what happens when you grunge something. So here's the heart that I mentioned earlier. So now I'm putting, I use tacky glue, but you could use Elmer's glue or Mod Podge. And then, yes, I just sprinkle cinnamon all over the glue and let it dry. Just adding a little more glue to the bottom area there so I can put some more cinnamon on it. So, if you guys have like any old cookie cutters, or of course it doesn't have to be a heart, it could be any shape you want, right? Stars or nothing, or you could use cardboard. You could use cardboard to make any kind of shape that you wanted to put on the front of it. If there was something flower shapes or butterflies or leaves or whatever, right? Even Easter egg, a bunny. Bunnies don't have to be just for Easter. So yeah, let that dry after you do that kind of thing. So, pick something that you want to put on the front, if there is something, or nothing. So that's it when it dried. So now I'm going to hang it on the front of the container. I really do like the colors. I like that light green fabric. It really is cute. I wish it was homespun so that it would, because that stuff that's not homespun doesn't necessarily tear that easily if you tear it the wrong direction, which I did not, but you have to pay attention to which way the fabric, do a test. So I'm tying it on here, and I'm tying it on very tightly because I don't want it to sag. We get it on there, and it is on tight. So I hope you are so enjoying this video. If you are, please consider subscribing. Please share the video with your friends if they like to craft, or if they might like what my channel is offering for crafts. And thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. And I hope you decide to make this craft. Please, if you do, share your pictures. That would be awesome. I would love to see them. Thank you. See you in the next one.